The game is on. Some of you may know that I have another PowerPoint presentation that also has the major title of The Game is On. And it has to do with video interviewing, and especially a video interviewing platform called HireVue. And this is the same. It's the same with every single aspect of your life. There are so many times when you get to feeling that this system that I'm stuck in is a game. We're all playing a game. And if I can just figure out what are the rules to the game, then I can be successful. And I believe that the applicant tracking system is a system that can be gamed. So if you understand how the system works, then you can work the system. And so subtitle, Tips and Tricks to Beat the Applicant Tracking System. All right, the job search game. Much like every other kind of game, there are rules, there are referees, there are people that are in charge of the game that make sure that the rules are followed. But in many cases, if you just understand the rules, you're going to be able to understand how you can work the rules to your advantage. And I've mentioned this in many of the new member orientations. You may not be aware of it yet, but once you become unemployed, you have crossed over into a parallel universe that does not seem to be governed by logic. And it often seems as though there was no doubt that you were the best qualified candidate, and yet you were not the one chosen. And it does begin to mess with your mind and eat away at your confidence level. And you begin to think, well, maybe the right job is not out there for me, or maybe I am going to have to compromise my values and take something else that I'm not really interested in, or maybe those accomplishments that I've been touting all this time are not that hot after all, and I need to rethink. Maybe I'm not that good. So at any rate, there are lots of different things to keep in mind. So things that you need to know. How does it work? What are the rules? How does it work in this city, in this industry, in this time? And note that number one and number two can change all the time. I get people a lot who moved into Austin, and the first thing they say is, so how do people find a job in Austin? Because it often is different in different cities. Austin is a who do you know town, right? It helps tremendously if you have people that will recommend you. It helps tremendously if you will have people who will say, listen, I'm going over to my boss's house. Why don't you come with me and I'll introduce you? To just have that little personal warm handoff to a hiring manager. It helps tremendously. And it could be that it works that way in every city, but it definitely seems to work that way in Austin. And so we've got hundreds of people moving in here. Before things got as hot as they are now, they said between 700 and 800 people that were moving into the Austin area every week. And now I think it's hotter than that. Tesla says they're going to be hiring, what was it? 10,000 people. It seemed like a million. They can't get enough people to go work at Tesla. So at any rate, it seems as though lots of people are hiring, and it should be easy. Why is it not easy? And so maybe I'm not following the rules. So what am I doing wrong? So the protagonist in our little saga is a guy named Ken Colden. He had a BSEE. He had an MBA. He also had a PMP, so he was a certified project manager. And twice he was named the Global Professional of the Year by his company, which was a Fortune 100 company at that time. And so it's easy to see he is quite the hero. So you're thinking, man, look at all those letters after his name. He certainly could get a job right away. No problem. And when he started his job search, and this was a few years back, he had already a terrific resume, which he sent to 136 companies. 4 of the resumes went to former coworkers who showed them to their hiring managers. And in every case, the hiring managers who had jobs they were trying to fill for which Ken was qualified, each time they said, wow, this guy's terrific. I want to talk to him. He's got to go through HR, though. That's just the system. And so out of all of that, he got zero interviews. Now, how is that possible? How is that possible? And then we figure out, well, here's the problem. It's the antagonist of our little story, the applicant tracking system. The ATS is a software application that filters resumes and automatically excludes some. They filter them and filter out resumes based on criteria such as keywords. I've got to make my picture go away. Skills, former employers, years of experience, and the schools attended. The applicant tracking system is also known as this guy, who is, as you can see, chomping on some poor job seeker, no doubt, spitting him out, as it were, onto the cutting room floor. How bad can it be, you ask? They say 75% of resumes are filtered out by the ATS. I don't know who PrepTel is, a job search firm, and I don't know how when that study was conducted, but when I did my little research, I found that 75% number was repeated over and over and over, but it's a bunch. And so no matter how long you spent crafting that resume, it's very possible that nobody saw it. So the solution is JobScan. Here's how JobScan works. And if you decide you want to look it up, it's jobscan.co. And there is a free version that gives you 5 scans a month. If you like it on Facebook, you can perhaps wrangle a few more free scans. There are other things you can do to sometimes get rewarded with free scans. If you wanted to pay for it, it's pretty pricey for a job seeker. It's $49 for a month's membership, and it is $89 for a 3-month membership. When you do that, they also give you an extra month for free. So it's essentially $89 for a 4-month subscription. Still pricey for a job seeker right now for the moment, and I don't know how long it's going to last because I've cut my hours at ACC. But for the moment, I have a coach's version, which means that I can scan anybody's resume. So you could send me the job posting that you're interested in and your resume, and I could scan it and send you the printout of what it says. But here's how it works. You paste or upload your resume on one side of the screen, and you paste the job description that you're going after on the other side of the screen. And when we say paste the job description, it's not the whole job description. It is just the requirements, the preferreds. If it gives a skills list, if it says like knowledge, skills, and abilities, put that in there. If it has a little paragraph about major responsibilities, essential job functions, all of those things go. What you do not paste in there is the paragraph at the beginning that tells you the history of the company. You do not paste in the EEOC stuff at the bottom of the job posting. It's just, this is what the company is looking for. This is what you'll be doing. And then it does a really quick lickety-split scan, looking for keywords a keyword match across the job posting and your resume, and then it gives you a score. And usually, even if you think that you have targeted that resume to that job, your initial score, the first time you ever use JobScan, is usually between 25 and 50%. And then it says, okay, but here are the things that you need to do to get your score up to the recommended 80%. They think that if you can get your score up to 80%, it'll get through the ATS system. And so they say, here's what you can do. There are some tips. One of the things that every time when you're in JobScan, and if I can, I'll go in live and show you. But they say every time you see ATS tip, you should click on it. And in this particular case, the tip is if you will put in the company name and the URL, and in this case, the example that they've given is Amazon, then they will look up in their database and see what is the ATS system that particular company uses. Obviously, there are many, many applicant tracking systems. There's Bamboo, and there's Taleo, and there's iCIMS, and there's, I can't remember, there's a gazillion of them. And each one is a little bit different as to how it scans, what it kicks out, what it can read, what it can't read. And so in this particular case, Amazon uses iCIMS, and it says iCIMS does not parse URLs from the resume into the applicant profile. Let me scoot this down. If you have a URL such as your LinkedIn profile, you have to show the entire URL and you have to hyperlink it. It also says iCIMS indicates the exact employment start and end dates. This is rather important. A lot of ATS systems have this very same characteristic. They want you to, what they prefer, what iCIMS prefers is the month first, and then the day, and then the 4-digit year. If no exact date is, if the exact date is not specified, then they're going to assign a date. So if all you have is the month and year, then that will be, they'll just assume that the month is the first of the month. The day is the first of the month. If you only have the year, then they'll put it to January 1 that you started and ended. Now, for a long time, people like me and all kinds of resume writers and job search experts and consultants were advising people to not worry about the month. Just put the year. It's a good way to kind of cover up gaps in your work history. Companies don't really care that much about the months anyway. And so there were lots of people who took our advice, which at the time was well-founded. And they got rid of the months and they just put the years. And then we discovered that is not smart with the new systems, because, for example, one of my people who did have months and then had a gap, and so he took the months off and just put years. And this was in August. He was a job club member who recently went to work on a temporary contract with the city. And he went for an interview and they said, wow, it's been a long time since you've worked. So what have you done that's constructive since you were last employed? And he said, oh, no, I just lost my job in July. And they said, oh, well, here it says that you lost your job January 1st. And it was because it had defaulted back. So then we said, oops, okay, change a plan, go back and put your months in. I don't think anybody really puts the day that they left a job anymore, but usually as long as the start date is the first of the month and the end date is the first of the month, it'll work out okay. So it'll be accurate. So at any rate, if you want to put the day in, you certainly can, but that's good information to know. So if they're looking for a certain number of months of experience or years of experience, it could be that not putting the dates correctly will toss you out for that reason. Then it also says, let's see, iCIMS sometimes incorporates a series of pre-screening or knockout questions to filter out candidates Your responses to these questions can be scored and contribute to an overall screening score or knock you out of the running completely. Try to keep the intent behind the questions in mind while still answering truthfully. So they're telling you, if you have these knockout questions that you have to answer, think about what would be the question behind the question. If they ask me about, oh, I don't even know, a time when I felt overwhelmed at work, then it could be that it's really, how do you deal with deadline pressure, or how do you deal with multiple assignments simultaneously? How do you work under stress? So at any rate, you want to answer truthfully, but see if you can keep your answer focused on what would be the question behind the question. And then the last thing says, and this is important, and this is common to almost all ATS systems, iCIMS uses the frequency of a skill to determine search result and rankings. So the more times that you repeat one of their keywords, one of the things that perhaps is also repeated frequently in the job posting, it could be that keyword is really important to them. They also it'll give you extra points if you repeat it throughout your throughout your resume as well. So they give you that. Oops. All right. And so then once it gives you your score, it will then say, okay, here's what you've got to do to get your score up. And it'll say, put your dates this way, put your education this way. And it really emphasizes your keywords. So it says, it'll give you hard skills. Hard skills are the things that you've learned, you had to be trained. Hard skills are software, hardware, equipment. Soft skills are usually more people skills, and lots of times soft skills are things that you do naturally, like collaboration or teamwork. You can be taught soft skills, but often hard skills are valued more by companies initially. They say people hire for hard skills and terminate you because you lack soft skills. So the hard skills in this particular example were design. It was on the job description 6 times and on the resume only 4. Graphic design on the job description 4 times, on the resume only 2. So you might want to create, have a, bump that up a little bit. Video was on the job description once, and you got a great big you don't have it at all. So are there ways that you are going to be able to insert these words into your resume? And let me tell you that populating, you can't just do a keyword dump and have a section of your resume that just says keywords and you just list them. You absolutely cannot put them on your resume in white font thinking how smart you are because you're outwitting the recruiters by putting them in as a way that the system will read them, but human beings won't see them. They'll blackball you for doing that kind of stupidity. So, but figuring out a way to insert keywords logically into the text of your resume can take hours. And so here is the problem with the solution to the problem. So here's the problem with JobScan. It is time consuming. You always have to have a targeted resume for every job that you apply to. And then beyond you think you've targeted, and then you still run it through JobScan, and then you've got to add more keywords or a higher frequency of keywords, and it is incredibly time consuming. The exact word challenge. Sometimes, for example, let's say one of the reasons that if those of you who are on LinkedIn, there's now a box you can check that says you are open to remote opportunities. That's because the applicant tracking systems, those matching systems, for some reason, it seems as though it would be so easy for programmers to fix this problem, but they do not take anything that has the root word in it. in terms of the word remote, that's all they see is remote. That it will not read remotely. So if you say willing to work remotely, it might not read it. You have to say open to remote opportunities. Sometimes it's a combination of things, like it's looking for customer success and you've got customer service. They may not read customer service and give you credit for that because you don't have customer success. It's so mind-boggling and irritating that you have to somehow figure out how to make sense of the exact word. Often the exact word is the present tense, and resumes should always be written in the past tense. And so it's like, how am I going to be doing that? So that exact word challenge is also very time consuming. So it means sometimes that for every single job you apply to, you're going to have pretzeled your resume into some kind of contorted keyword. Sometimes I'll review somebody's resume and I'll say, well, this sentence doesn't make any sense. What are you trying to say here? And they'll say, oh, I was trying to fit in that keyword, or I was trying to make it match the job posting. So I had to, it doesn't exactly make sense. And so anyway, you can end up with just a junk resume that doesn't exactly, and certainly won't work for the next job when you have another set of keywords. Yes, that's what it didn't want to do. And that would be you trying to work with JobScan. So the solution to the problem with the solution to the problem, and that slide title was so big I didn't have room for the solution, is the T-chart. Ta-da! So the T-chart, I thought that our Job Club member Pam Otten created the T-chart concept herself, but when she just wrote a book about the tricks that she had learned in her job search, and in the book she says that she got this from a career coach and then perfected it for herself and taught it in a presentation that she made to Launchpad, and then wrote a book about it. So the T-chart, so here's a T-chart. The basic concept is you have the very same heading that you would have on your resume. You put the exact job title that you're going after, the same as you would on a resume. You put that at the top of the page. Sometimes people will even put social worker 1 at Baylor Scott & White. So having the company name on the T-chart is also very helpful. In Pam's situation, she put the company name here, but you can also put it up here at the top. And then you have a sentence that says something like, and there are many ways to do it, this document quickly shows how my qualifications match your posted requirements and job duties. My more detailed resume follows. This reminds me, when I very first saw this, it reminded me of an executive job seeker that I worked with years and years and years ago, who had a 3-page resume. And what he always would put in his cover letter was, he would say, I know how busy you are. This is to the recruiter or the hiring manager. He would say, I know how busy you are. So I've included a 1-page overview of the highlights of my career, plus my more detailed 3-page resume for your review. And so people that didn't have time to sift through a 3-page resume could just look at his overview and see very quickly, aha, these are the highlights of what this guy's done in his career. And so it reminds me a little bit of that. So the structure of the T-chart is, it's a table with 3 columns. The first one is just a number of the job requirements. In the second one, you put the company name, Baylor Scott & White, and the job title, Social Worker 1. And then in the second one, you title it the job seeker's name, skills, and experience. And then in this particular case, you can merge together 2 or 3 requirements if you want into this column too. And then the major required characteristics, you put first. So what was required for this job was a master's degree and any one of a few different certifications. But she didn't put down all the certifications. She only put down the certification that she has. So she got LMSW on there here, and then she got it on here too. She is a licensed master social worker, LMSW, because that was one of the key words, and that number, master's degree in social work, blah, 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 bachelor's degree, blah, 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 blah. Now, a couple of these I wanted to show you. I asked her, so one of the requirements was plan of care. Plan of care is a specific document that when you're a social worker, you create a plan of care for your client. And it's just like if any of you are familiar with the special ed education development plan, the EDP that has to be made. So it's an official document that lists, these are the activities we're going to go through to try to take this person from where they are to where we want them to go. And I asked this real life job seeker, have you done plan of care? And this is a social work, this is an entry-level social worker. She just graduated. And so she's had internships, but she hasn't had a full-scale job. And this is no experience is required. So she's perfect for this. And I said, do you have plan of care with capital letters? Do you have that experience? And she said she worked at a domestic violence shelter where people came and went. They didn't stay there. It wasn't a residential place where they stayed for a long time and you really developed a plan of care. But during the time they were there, she did the rest of this stuff: resources and referral, crisis intervention, education, patient advocacy. She did all of this, but she did not do plan of care. So we don't have that in there, but we've got all of these other keywords here. Here is another one where she doesn't quite match. Collaborate with healthcare team, because this is a hospital. So this is for a medical social worker. Collaborate with the healthcare team and involve the patient and so forth. And she said, I have collaborated throughout my career, primarily with mental health professionals rather than with a healthcare team. So she's able to get it collaborated and healthcare team in here, even though she's not saying that she has that experience. She gets that keyword in there. So in each case, you're putting, here's what you're looking for, and here's how I'm qualified for that, whether specifically, perfectly, a perfect match, or whether it's just pretty close. Here's how I'm qualified. And then at the very end, and Pam always said you should put this in the table. Please review my LinkedIn profile and my detailed resume, which follows. I welcome the opportunity. Oh, and then she also had, and also ask me in for an interview, invite me to come in for an interview. I welcome the opportunity to learn more about this position. I have also added that little closing sentence below the table, and I think it works both ways because it all gets scanned in. But you'll notice that this is page 1 of 3. This T-chart needs to become page 1 of your resume, and you submit it as page 1 of your resume. It is not a cover letter. Sometimes if people think of it as a cover letter, then they'll call it a cover letter. They won't call it a resume. It doesn't scan in the same place. Sometimes companies will want you to submit a cover letter, which should not be like this. It should be more prosy, and it goes in a separate evaluation box. So this has to become page 1 of your resume. So this particular I'm a Gooden had a 2-page resume, and this became page 1. And in fact, here's her 2-page, here's the page 2 and 3 of her resume, same heading. She's got the summary paragraph that you have. She's got skills. She's got her education at the top because that's her best qualification. She has her relevant work history, what she did there. And then she has additional experience doing other things. So she has a 3-page resume, but page 1 is the T-chart. And what happens is you don't have to make a lot of changes then on your resume. It can stay essentially the same. You can click in a few different skills each time. I should have put a space there. That didn't happen. Also, if you have an extensive work history, we advise you to have extensive work history, then you'd put your education at the bottom, and you should have an accomplishments section here at the top where education is now. And you can change out your accomplishments for each job that you apply to if necessary. So that all you'd be changing in your resume really is this top third or top half, and the rest of your resume would stay exactly the same. But where you get your keyword match is in the T-chart. So the T-chart becomes page 1 of the resume. It includes most of the keywords. It undergoes, the resume doesn't have to be changed and pretzeled around. And recruiters tend to love this because it makes their job easier. They can zip through your T-chart and not have to give a huge look at your resume. And then I wanted to show you real quickly, since we're kind of out of time, when I just took the resume of this person, this real person, and I pasted it, I uploaded her resume, and I put in the job description, and her score was 45%. So she had targeted it as much as she could, but it was still just 45%. But when I put in the 3 pages, and for a long time, tables were not scannable, boxes were not scannable, and we see that columned resumes frequently do not scan well. But for some reason, the T-chart seems to scan, and you can see it doesn't scan as a table, but all of the text scans in, and that's what's important. And so when I did it with the 3 pages, she got a score of 94%. Ta-da! So what this last slide refers to is we believe that eventually companies won't even ask you for a resume anymore. There are already some companies that are trying to figure out how can they assess job applicants without a resume. The resume, sometimes you pay somebody to write a resume. It's not even you exactly, or you use the job scan to get through. And so they don't believe that it's necessarily the best way to filter good people in and unqualified people out. And you may have already agreed with that because you were the qualified person who got filtered out because you didn't understand the rules of the ATS game. HireVue is a new game. The resume is not the primary filtering. It is an interview, a screening interview that is done by artificial intelligence and robotics and so forth, and you are filtered out or in based on all sorts of other things. Gamification is a new thing where they give you games to play that will test your skills. If you score well enough on the game, you move to the next level of consideration. So people that are really good at playing these games, and it's like an IQ test as well. So it's not only a test of your intelligence, it's a test of your ability to make decisions quickly, or your ability to logically assess something, your problem solving. There's lots of things that games can test, but people who play games a lot, which is essentially young people, might have an advantage over older people. So you have to learn how to play that game, the game. How do you work artificial intelligence? We understand that with HireVue. And then there are yet to be imagined games that are going to be utilized to screen some job seekers in and some job seekers out. Any questions, comments, concerns? Do we have questions in the chat? What if your 3-page resume has too many words, does the ATS or a recruiter filter that out? No, I don't think so. JobScan does tell you, very often it will say, oh, your resume only has 750 words, not the 1,000 words that we recommend. Or sometimes they'll say, oh, your resume has 2,000 words. Is there anything that you can eliminate to get it down to our recommended 700, 1,000 words? So if you already if you already have a 3-page resume and then you add a job scan, I mean, you add a T-chart to that, uh, it could be that maybe you want to leave out some things, that you want to condense some things. If you have a 3-page resume, uh, you can probably make that a little bit more concise anyway. But I think that the T-chart is the more important piece. Oh, JSN, Job Seekers Network, has a discount code available for JobScan. Oh, how cool. I didn't know that. Wonder how you get a discount code. Anyway, where is Ken's presentation? Oh, Ken's presentation, Ken Colden, Koldan, Ken Colden made a presentation. You can go on YouTube and just key in Ken Colden, and what you'll come up with is the presentation that he made to Launchpad Job Club, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that. And you can also see Pam Otten's presentation about JobScan. I kind of think my presentation was a little bit clearer than hers. She also threw in some good information about Hunter. That was another site that she thought was really useful.